Over the past 80 years, we have seen the Dark Knight appear in many film incarnations. I'm a huge Batman fan and have great admiration for the character and all of the cinematic appearances that he has made. To celebrate the release of Justice League, I decided to rank the Batman films from worst to best from 1966 onwards. Whilst there are 2 films released before the 66 version, they're difficult to recommend due to the limitations of the time. Batman truly became a phenomenon on screen due to Adam West and Burt Ward's depiction, so I will be counting from this point forward. With that out of the way, let's dive into my list of all the Batman movies ranked from 1966 to Justice League.
Who's afraid of the big black bat?
Whilst not being outright terrible, Batman Forever isn't spectacular either. Introducing a new Dark Knight and director, the film feels like a toned-down version of the Burtonverse that preceded it. Featuring an uncharacteristically bad Tommy Lee Jones performance, the film suffers from poor pacing, a weak love subplot, and lots of neon lights. Don't forget the bat nipples, which were absolutely terrible. The film just isn't funny either. Even with Jim Carrey at the helm, it could have done with some humour, and that's why our next entry places slightly above it.
My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
Look, yeah, I know people are probably going to be mad that this placed above Batman Forever, but Batman and Robin is so bad it's good. Featuring more ice puns than the Vanilla Ice, Ice-T and Ice Cube collaboration track, this film has its tongue placed firmly in its cheek. At the time it was criticised for revitalising the 1966 camp version of the character, but this movie can be looked back as showcasing the potential of the Dark Knight. As a character, the Cape Crusader can either be a dark and brooding figure, or a fun and comedic one. Providing more entertainment than Batman Forever, Batman and Robin secures the second to last place on our list. There's no doubt that Suicide Squad suffered from studio interference. Promoting the Joker heavily, the film had confusing marketing externally and poor characterization internally. It's difficult even to say who the main character is, and sloppy editing makes the movie almost unwatchable at certain points. Whilst Batman's featured very little, his brief appearances are certainly highlights within the film that add a wealth of exposition to Gotham. Never before had we seen Batman appear out of the blue and escort criminals to Arkham like this, and it certainly is one of the most memorable moments of the movie. Adam West and Burt Ward gave iconic performances as the dynamic duo. What was great about the 1966 show is that as a kid you thought it was the most serious thing in the world. This perspective changed as you grew into adulthood and realised how hilarious it was, with memorable scenes such as
"Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb."
This movie is let down due to budget constraints and age, but it's still a great watch for die-hard fans.
That's how it starts.
Whilst drowning in problems theatrically, the extended edition remedies many of the nonsensical aspects of the film. Sure, Batman v Superman suffers from a weak villain, the
Why did you say that name?
scene, and a serial killer in the cape and cowl, but there's still a lot to like for die-hard fans. This movie is a cinematic milestone through its depiction of the first time that the Dark Knight and the Man of Steel met on the silver screen, bringing to life the work of Frank Miller and showcasing what is by far the best fight scene in a Batman movie to date. Batman v Superman gave us one of the most iconic depictions of the Cape Crusader.
Let's do it.
All right.
Justice League, the latest entry on our list, unfortunately suffers from a weak narrative, lackluster villain and mediocre CGI. That's not to say it's bad. Perfectly capturing the essence of Justice League Unlimited, the film depicts a maturer, wiser Batman that feels like a fully fleshed personality instead of merely an archetype. Aided by Elfman's iconic score, Batman becomes a leader, realising that he works better with others as opposed to by himself. A far cry from the darker and angrier version of the character in Batman v Superman. Ben Affleck feels like he has fully grown into the role and provides a brilliant foundation for the rest of the team to springboard off. Whilst not perfect, this film still encapsulates many of the fantasies that fans had about the team's first on-screen ensemble and feels like a step in the right direction, bettering many of the flaws from its predecessor in the DC universe. Perhaps the inevitable extended cut will save the movie, but for now it ranks in just behind Batman Returns.
I made him a promise.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
Batman Returns is a mixed bag. Ranging from cool to absurd, this film seems like a twisted nightmare at points. Featuring a demonic penguin that gropes and leers over women, all whilst drooling black slime, it's not hard to see why parents didn't want their kids seeing this movie. Aging poorly, it's obvious that Burton was more interested in the villains than he was in the Cape Crusader, and the central character feels bland and boring. This is more Edward Scissorhands than Batman, and because of this, it ranks lower on our list than its predecessor, Batman.
And we're rolling, and action. Just go ahead when you're ready.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I've just been bat-mailing on my bat phone.
Yeah, can you just do the line, please?
I'm Batman.
Relying heavily on Batman, the Lego movie showcases The Dark Knight as a parody. Launching Batarangs by the second, the satirical look at the character provides a wealth of jokes on his 75-year history, and at the time it was one of the most unique depictions of the Dark Knight. Don't overlook this because you think it might be too kiddie. This is definitely one for the die-hard fans.
Can you see by the dawn's early
You are as precious to me as you were to your own mother and father. I swore to them that I would protect you, and I haven't.
Due to its amazing opening and phenomenal final act, The Dark Knight Rises elevates Nolan's trilogy to the best comic book movie collection to date. Featuring the redemption of the Dark Knight, we see Gotham fall to its lowest point and learn the value of symbols. Dark Knight Rises just misses out due to some lackluster plot elements and poor villain characterization.
It'd be great to be Batman.
The Lego Batman movie was a risk, however it paid off massively. As hilarious as it is gorgeous to watch, Lego Batman sends up the character in a roast-like fashion. At its heart, it has great care for the icon, and that's why it works well for newcomers and old fans alike. Featuring minute Easter eggs such as Billy D. Williams as Two-Face and a Condiment King costume, there's enough here to keep fans coming back for more. Lego Batman is a triumph.
What do you fear?
Batman Begins started a new trend for comic book movies. Presenting a grittier, realistic Batman, this film focused on the psychology of fear and what motives would possess someone to become a vigilante. A far cry from what had come before, Batman Begins' legacy still can be seen today. Influencing hundreds of films, it secures itself within the top 5.
Bruce Wayne. And what do you do for a living?
Batman 1989 was a phenomenon upon release. Revitalizing comic book films, it balanced perfectly the dark and brooding Batman with the camp light-hearted one. Beautiful in its aesthetic, the costumes, car and characters have a timeless feel to them. Jack Nicholson nails the Joker and tears up the scenery every time he graces the screen. Michael Keaton expertly depicts the troubled persona of Bruce Wayne, and the film's score elevates this movie to the level of unforgettable blockbuster. This film, in my opinion, is timeless, and you really need to go back and rewatch it if you haven't seen it for a while. It's absolutely great.
I like the cape. Not sure about the mask, though.
Batman Mask of the Phantasm expertly captures the dark and brooding tone of the Caped Crusader. Featuring stellar performances by Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, the film tells the tale of Bruce Wayne's first love. At heart, the piece is a mystery, one that has a shocking conclusion and cements the reason why Batman has to continue on his never-ending journey to end crime. Heavily influenced by Year One, this picture contains the definitive version of The Dark Knight and rightfully earns its spot at number 2. The Dark Knight still reigns as the greatest comic book movie ever made. Revolutionizing the genre, the film was the first of its kind to win an Oscar. Feeling like a crime film as opposed to a comic book story, the movie features iconic performances from all of its cast, most notably Heath Ledger. The Dark Knight ticks all of the boxes. Balancing drama with dark humour, it packs a real punch on every level. Showcasing the fall of Harvey Dent, we are treated to a movie that features expansive metaphors on the Iraq War and economic game theory. Influencing all that followed, The Dark Knight shaped the landscape for comic book movies, and its influence is still seen today across the board. As good today as it was upon release, The Dark Knight secures the number 1 spot on our Batman movie list. So that's my list of all the Batman movies ranked from worst to best. Did you agree? Have you seen Justice League? And if so, what did you think? Comment below and let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked it. Also, check out my Dark Knight Returns series, in which I read through the series chronologically from The Last Crusade all the way to Dark Knight 3 The Master Race. Thanks very much for checking out this video and take care. Peace.